Hello and welcome to the No Holds Barred Witchcraft podcast. It's your favourite duo again, Liam and Chris. And today we are talking about paranormal investigationings. Yes, that's right. The sort of thing like Scooby-Doo did, but just not as good. Now, Chris, I was a massive fan of Scooby-Doo when I was a kid. I absolutely loved it. A lot of people like Tom and Jerry. I couldn't stand Tom and Jerry. It was all Scooby-Doo. Now, I don't remember any times when Scooby-Doo, on an episode of Scooby-Doo, they'd be sat around in a dark room shouting out, "Is there anyone there?" And then when someone's stomach rumbled, them think that there's a ghost present. Now, I know there are occasions when Shaggy and Scooby used to run away at the sight of, I don't know, the wind carrying a carrier bag or something like that looked like a ghost. And I know they'd run away if someone was under a bedsheet. Not too different, not unlike Yvette Fielding from that television show, Most Haunted in the UK. But is it me? Did you think that just got cut and is now on the floor of the editing room? Maybe Scooby-Doo, they just cut all those bits out, or do you think they just weren't there to begin with? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Cut all those bits out? I don't think they cut all those bits out.
Well, yeah, I mean, with any paranormal investigation team, there's always the two stoners. I mean, the two scared people that believe. You've got the skeptic, which would have been
Velma. Jinkies.
Velma, yeah. Velma, and you've also got the presenter that just sits there and stands there and looks pretty.
Fred.
Which is Daphne.
Nah, that's Freddy.
Fred's the leader. Fred's the leader, isn't he? Fred's the producer.
Oh, okay.
And then you've got who else was there? I think that was it,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Well, you've got
Scrappy-Doo.
That's the psychic. The odd psychic that they truck on some of these shows, and yeah, basically he just winds them all up. Let me at him. And he always turns out to be a baddie as well. If you've watched the films, obviously Scrappy turns out to be evil in that. But there we go. Let's not get too sidetracked on Scooby-Doo. I was just wondering, because from what I remember, Scooby-Doo, there was a lot of investigation of a paranormal nature.
Yeah.
And with paranormal investigation, there's supposed to be a lot of investigation of a paranormal nature. But from what I've seen, there doesn't seem to be much of either paranormal or investigation going on. And I wonder if you can come to the rescue of some of these paranormal investigators and say, no, Liam, you've got it wrong because
No, I don't think I can.
Well, that's not going to be a very good podcast then, is it? It's just going to be being very nasty about paranormal
I don't mean it like
investigation.
that. I just mean that kind of. I think you're probably gone a step too far by calling Scrappy-Doo a psychic, but because they can't surely be that irritating.
Well, he's not in every episode. He's not in every episode.
Okay, I get what you mean.
So they just truck him in. He's or the demonologist. We'll call him
Yeah,
the
that's
demonologist. Because from what I remember of Most Haunted, they'd have a psychic every now and then, or most of the time, until that psychic becomes more famous than the actual host. In which case they need to get rid of them quick because the ego won't stand it. And then you've got a demonologist or someone that's an expert in the occult, well, presuming it's Scrappy-Doo, because all they do is let me at him. Just shout in an empty room.
No.
And obviously there's elaborate contraptions and things like that. They've all got these gadgets and things, haven't they? Fred always makes something, whereas the paranormal investigators, they buy these boxes that light up and stuff. Like super complicated.
Yeah.
I remember the days when you tap the skull, you just give the skull 3 taps and that's it. I'm very, very analog.
Analog definitely is a useful phrase there. It really depends. I don't know. Like, I suppose they fit into two camps, don't they? Of the ones that are kind of led by paranormal investigators, where they want to talk about, just proving something else exists. Because I'm assuming that's what the point of all that is, right? Is proving that there is.
Well, I think there's three, isn't there? 3 different types.
So, well, I suppose maybe I'm trying to think what you'd think the third one is. The second one would be kind of the psychic led ones, where it's a medium leading the charge. And then who would be the third one?
Well, my breakdown of 3 different types of paranormal investigation teams is 1, you've got the ghost hunters. So these are all people with matching T-shirts and logos and things like that. Very often they're kind of a regional,
historians.
I suppose. Yeah, well, the ghost hunters. So they basically go. They're just wanting a spooky experience, and very often you can go to these ghost hunting events and stuff like that just to get a spooky experience. That's all they're really interested in, is having spooky experiences. It's kind of like a fetish, but not really. Then you've got the people I like the most, which are the investigators. So these people are paid money. Very often I like the commercial ones, so the ones that investigate paranormal occurrences on behalf of commercial clients and not domestic clients. So they're the people which, if something really, really, really weird is going on, you can pay them to come and investigate it and either diagnose the problem or at least give you some information on it and catalogue it, that kind of thing. I've worked with people like that in the past, because who do you think they go to when something really bad happens? They come to us. So there we go. And then the third is the people which are the scientists.
Yeah.
They're the people that want to prove to the world that the other side exists and that ghosts exist. So you've got the 3 different types. The first type I don't mind.
They're harmless.
Because they're just they just want a little laugh, Some would say they're dabblers. I don't really care. It's good business for us when it goes wrong. When that thing does follow them home. And then the second type, the professional ones, then, it's a job at the end of the day. So, if you want to investigate strange things, it's no different than being a private investigator, except instead of taking pictures and cataloguing someone having an affair or stealing money from someone's workplace, you're investigating weird stuff, or slightly more weirder stuff. It's the third lot I don't like, these ones that are trying to prove to the world that spirits and stuff exist. Because they do a really bad job of it. Have you noticed that? They've been doing it for a while, and they've got so-say evidence, and yet the world still says that there's nothing there. Science hasn't adopted the fact that it's there. And every time you get one of these people, especially if there's a PhD one, who's paid to do a study on behalf of a university normally, they always say the same thing. Well, we're the first ones that have done it. We're the first ones that really seriously looked at this. It's like, no, I'm pretty sure there are a dozen other universities that have got a PhD, professor there that's studying something similar. You've got all of the millions, literally millions spent by governments on various different programs, whether it's scrying and that kind of thing, or the Nazi psychic power stuff, all of that sort of stuff. Which is interesting, because they'll spend a couple of million on that, then they'll ditch the program, then they'll start up another program. So it does make you wonder, doesn't it, about, why do they keep spending money on it if it doesn't work? But maybe it's because they've got a PhD person there saying, well, you've not let me do this. I should be the one doing it. I can get you the result. But we're going off on a tangent now. But yeah, I struggle with those, partly because we're from a witchcraft background, and for us it's the case if we're supposed to keep all of this secret, aren't we?
Good old gatekeeping.
Keep it away from the profane.
Gatekeeping.
Gatekeeping. don't tell the profane, as Heinrich Agrippa
Yeah.
would say. And something about mundanes and
Mundanes
muggles
and
as well.
muggles.
Don't tell them.
They can't handle the truth. No, it's one of those. But it doesn't really interest me. I think that's part of the problem. It's
Well, that's good because we're doing a podcast
no,
all
but
about it. You'll have to
no,
drum
I
up
don't mean
some
like that. I
interest.
mean like the people interest me. The spooky encounters that they're after
The
don't
dead
interest
people.
me.
So you're interested in the living people, but not the
Yeah,
dead people.
because they're
Is that it?
fascinating. That they want to spend all their time doing those sorts of experiments, or the
Oh, but they only do specific experiments,
there's
don't
about
they?
4 of them, isn't there?
I don't know. You've got table tipping, because apparently that's an experiment. You've got the Ouija board thing and pendulums. You've got EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. You've got photography. And then you've also got all of these magic boxes and voice boxes and all that technology and stuff like that. And then there was one special camera thing which just makes stick men appear, and the stick men move around, and that's apparently supposed to be a ghost. Not sure how
I'm not
that
quite
works,
sure how
if
that
I'm honest
works
with
either,
you,
to be
but
honest.
it's a new
Yeah,
one. I saw it on a TV
I've
show
seen a
not
few of
too long
those.
back.
I don't quite understand how it works. But no, I find them fascinating, and I find the stories that they go looking for, like the proper ghost hunter car, like Group 1, the kind of ghost hunter ones that just want an experience, and then spend all this time researching the family tree and all that kind of stuff. I like that kind of genealogy storytelling stuff. That's quite cool. Particularly when you find someone that's particularly charismatic to tell the story. That's always good. Like a good ghost story, bedtime kind of ghost story. I like them. Yeah, middle group. I don't know. I'm not quite sure how I feel about them.
For the people whose living it is to investigate
Yeah,
weird
because I don't
things.
quite get. It. So things that go bump in the night, and then you basically camp out and record stuff and say, yeah, sure. Surely they just go to old Mother Hubbard down the road, and that crazy woman will tell you everything about him. She only got to go in, and she got a feeling in her
Well,
waters.
but today everything's about professions, isn't it? You have to have a qualification in a profession, like back in the day. So I'll give you one example. So there's a certain warehouse, right? I'm not going to say the name of the warehouse because it's a business. But things you go in on a morning and there's things all over the floor. And yet that happens every night. There's some things get pushed off the shelves onto the floor. Now, if that keeps happening over and over again,
You put
back
some
in
rat
the
traps
day,
down.
well, back in the day, you'd probably go to old Mother Hubbard down the road, the old cunning wise woman. Nowadays, they feel, oh, if we've shouted at everyone and the cameras aren't showing that there's anyone or anything there, we best find out what's going on, because all these products getting thrown on the floor has costed us money because they're all breaking. So why don't we pay someone whose job it is to check all this weird stuff out and see what they can come up with? And then in walks the Paranormal Investigation team with their matching t-shirts. I don't know, we'll call them... Oh, I don't want to say which one, because I don't know if there is a Bristol Paranormal or England Paranormal or something like that. There probably is, isn't there? I'm sorry if there is a Bristol Paranormal. Bristol, Avon and Somerset / Birmingham / Southwest / Midlands Paranormal Group. It's quite a big
It'd
t-shirt.
have to be
It'd
a
have
big
to be a big
t-shirt.
t-shirt to
But to be
write that
fair,
on.
some of them are
But
quite
I mean,
big.
some people do say that. I was just going to say that we're on the same wavelength, but no, I was going to say I wouldn't possibly
No,
say
it would
such
be
things.
uncouth.
That's just being very rude. Now, why have you got to bring all that sort of thing into it? We were having a nice conversation. You don't start going down those lines.
So yeah, like I get it, but wow, I was going to say surely nobody makes full-time money on that, but they do, don't they? That's the scary part about it.
Well, the ones that I've liked have actually normally been retired people. So it's normally one or two people. A lot of the time I've noticed they're either ex-military or ex-police retired, and they're making a little bit of extra money investigating things. But most often they don't do all of this like event stuff. So they're just people that get called upon to do investigations. A lot of the time it seems to be on a commercial thing, so it's, commercial basis. So businesses employ them when stuff's going on, not so much like, help, my house is haunted. There's something going on in the upstairs room. It's not really that. It's more like, oh, well, this keeps happening and it's costing us money, or this keeps happening, or there must be someone here, or, what's going on here. But yeah, it is interesting. I would have to say, if you're one of those sorts of people that like that kind of work, I just wonder how much of the time, I just wonder how much benefit it is. If it was like insurance or something like that, I suppose it makes sense that you've got an external third party coming in and verifying that there is something going on, you know. Whereas I'm not entirely sure what they do about it, because normally that's
Yeah,
the
that's the
witch's
bit that
job,
always
isn't it?
kind of baffles me about it, is kind of, well, once they found it, what do they do then? You get a referral to the local witch to come and sort it out? Like, what happens then?
Well, it depends, I suppose, on what the problem is. I mean, we clean up after ourselves, so it's not going to be anything
Yeah,
related to us. So it's normally something that, well, to be honest with you, most of the times when I've seen stuff like that, especially on TV shows and stuff, it's mainly um, either people messing around with things and inviting things in, like they've been playing with the Ouija boards, or they've disturbed something there by doing building renovations or something like that, or it's been a case of there's something like leftovers of humans, that kind of thing. I don't mean physically, well, sometimes physically, but ghosts and that kind of thing, they're just kind of there, and too many
yeah,
people report it. But I've noticed that it always seems to be negative, doesn't it? It always seems to be scary,
yeah.
spooky, kind of bad spirits, not so much nice things. There are a few stories and stuff like that, incubus, succubus kind of
Oh,
situations that
I loves me a
I've
good
come across,
incubus.
but yeah, a lot of the time it does seem to be quite negative things. But I don't know. Why don't we fix the paranormal industry in the 10 minutes or so we've got left? So what are you gonna say to all those would-be paranormal investigators out there?
Oh, and see, it lined me up again. I I don't.
Was that you said give it up and start on a career in
No, I
witchcraft? Was
did
that
not.
what you said?
No, I did not.
Okay. All you would-be paranormal investigators, put down your light boxes, start doing some real work, start doing some
Yeah,
magic.
I suppose. Yeah, I don't get it. So it's one of those. What for me to put all that effort in that they clearly put in, because it's not like they all just wake up one day and go, "Oh, I've got this flashy light box that I'm going to go use today." They're going to have put effort in learning how all this tech works.
They don't know how it works. What are you talking about?
So, or at least what the flashy lights are supposed to mean. Like, but surely they go and learn those things from their other people that have also got flashy light boxes that have been doing it a summer longer than they have. Um,
Are you saying that this is an industry, a big industry that's designed to make money by
well, I
selling
do
flashy light
wonder
boxes?
sometimes. Is there's some really really wealthy electrician somewhere that's making a hell of a lot of money with some LED lights? But no, a lot of it from the bits I've seen, a lot of it can be quite homemade, isn't it? Where they've actually learned how to do it from some kind of blog or whatever, and they've gone, "This is the way to do it."
What you mean on Supernatural? Where they make they make it have real
Yeah, well,
radio
that's what
or
I imagine
something.
it is. It's kind of old. I imagine parts of it have old tech in, because it's the same. It's the same way as like the archaeologists using ground penetrating radar. Like, nobody else is using it. They've got to sell it to somebody. So,
What you basically think that there's just a production line in China, and they make 5 of them, and then the label machine just gets swapped for a paranormal device, and they slap the paranormal device label on. So all this LiDAR stuff and that, it's just kind of like, oh well, we'll just repackage that. We'll call it something else. This phone doesn't quite work. Oh well, what's wrong with it? Oh well, the lights keep blinking. So I put a logo of a ghost on it and we'll vlog it to someone else.
There's part of me that thinks cynically enough that that's what happens. But I don't know, you've got a lot more experience with these kinds of people than I have. I've only met the kind of really, really kooky, hardcore kind of people that they're this in the same cap. They, when they're not doing that, they're wearing foil tin hats. So I've only ever experienced the worst end of that spectrum, unless the actual, maybe I need to go on a few of these. I feel like I'd be bored, and I'd then start with stuff. There you go, there's your first F-bomb of the day.
I'm gonna have to bleep that out now, aren't I? Damn, I'm gonna have to actually listen to this during the editing process. Normally I just click a button and it exports. Now I'm gonna have to go back and
you love doing the beep. You like doing the beep thing. Don't lie. So I don't know. I don't know if I'd have to really trust the group, I think, of people that I respected in order to go with them, I guess.
Yeah, but why? What would your reasons for going be? Because obviously you understand how death and all that works, and you speak to ghosts and dead people on a regular basis. So it's not like you're going to learn anything. So what would be the reason of going?
To find out what they're doing.
Oh, right, okay. So it would be kind of like when David Attenborough goes and studies chimpanzees and stuff.
Like, they got tools. Look.
And here, and I'll do my best David Attenborough impression. And here we have the paranormal investigator. A strange creature native to broken down buildings with no lights or electricity. They frequent old pubs and jails. I don't know how that'll come out.
Don't get too close. They're easily spooked.
But yeah, we're now coming up to literally we've got 6 minutes left. So okay, what are we going to say about paranormal investigation? So ultimately, if you are wanting to investigate the paranormal, you're going to want to do it for one of 2 reasons. One, there is something weird going on and you want to get to the bottom of what the heck it is. And 2, you want to understand how the universe works, what happens after death, what is life, what is consciousness, all that kind of thing. My thoughts would be, or what I would say, is why paranormal investigation instead of other things? Why is that the first port of call? Is it because of television? Because it's very, very modern, isn't it? Paranormal investigation is literally a 20th century thing. Started early 20th century, really. Before that, it's not really so much paranormal investigation, even more divination. So it's generally assumed
more likely necromancy.
It's just a case of it's different forms of necromancy, lightweight necromancy. It's there's spirits, but it's just how we're going to communicate with them. Whereas it's kind of like with 20th century and with a lot of atheism and that kind of thing coming in, it's kind of like, well, okay, let's assume that there is nothing. How do we go about investigating it? And then someone's basically kind of cobbled together
spiritualism, I think it's called.
But no, I don't. Well, to be fair, I mean, the spiritualism relies a lot on psychics, and although there are psychics that get used in paranormal investigation, there's a lot of technology that's used as well, isn't there? And we're not really good with the technology, partly because we do too much magic. So as soon as you start raising up energy, well, how many laptops has Lady Caroline gone
Exactly.
through now when she's done magic rituals? It's like the technology is things based on electricity are
No.
really not very good when it comes to the manifestation and
So
working with transmutation, raising
exactly.
of energy. It
It would
just
be a
does
case of
not
going into
work.
one of these which is hence why I feel like I would have to really trust the people that I went on it with, because otherwise it'd be a case of, oh, there's a ghost. No, Chris is having a tantrum up the corner. Like, just that's kind of what I'd imagine it being like, because all the flashy lights are going. It's like, no, Chris is just getting bored.
Chris is getting bored. And then when the cameras are stopped rolling because you've sucked out all of the juice in the batteries, as you like to do.
I love how I get the blame for that.
Well, it wouldn't be me, would it? I don't consort with these people. No, I'm joking. We've done interviews and stuff like that with paranormal investigation people. I mean, it's mainly been
Yeah.
events things and that kind of thing. I haven't done actual paranormal investigation for a very, very long time, many years now. It's just because I couldn't stomach it, really. It just bored me. Normally, if I'd get involved with something like that, it would be because a paranormal investigation team has already been in there and they're like, yep, there's
Yeah.
definitely stuff going on. Here we go, can you deal
Yeah,
with
whereas
it?
the stories I'm used to having are from witches who have gone in expecting it to be, not so friendly ghost, and then kind of going, oh, it's a djinn. Like, those are the sorts of stories that I'm used to having, not the oh well, we had a few flashy lights, and then someone themselves because there was someone hadn't digested properly.
Ah, so how good do you think, because the paranormal investigators investigate, how good do you think their diagnosis and diagnostic system is? Because you talked about going in and finding a djinn. If you're asking questions like, when did you die?
Yeah.
Did you have a wife? Are you a man or a woman? Is that really going to get to the bottom of it
No,
being a djinn? What do you think they'd come
no.
back as?
Well, they've come back of all sorts as a djinn. It's probably coming back as like, no, I'm a little small mining child. I used to be beaten, all that kind of shit, and then take it home with them accidentally, and then wondering why the house
What?
burns
If
down.
someone, instead of bringing a lamp, someone brought
Yeah,
a thermos.
and he
A
went, oh,
thermos
that
cup.
looks like a nice place to go home.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'll trade up. I don't want this brass lamp. I'm going to go and live in that thermos thing. It's nice. It's got insulation.
exactly. So that's the so those are the sorts of situations I'm used to go into, where you've got house clearings and things like that, but from a magical point of view. So for me, I struggle with what is finding out if it's happy or unhappy, or has children or a wife, or did you die recently, kind of questions. Why do any of, like, to us, why would any of those matter? If you're going in, it's because it's causing havoc. It needs to either be moved or moved on, like, so it's I don't, for us it would be going in, figuring out what's going on and dealing with it, not identifying it
Yeah.
and then tagging it and going,
And we
oh,
we
that's
don't
what it is.
and we don't necessarily side with the living either necessarily all the time.
No. Some of them have got a better claim
Okay.
on the house than the people living in it.
Well, very true, and the land and stuff like that. Luckily, out of all of the paranormal, like really, really bad, powerful places that I've found, rarely are any of them known by paranormal investigators, and none of them are buildings. They're always
Yeah.
cursed land. So there we go. That's it for this week's edition of the podcast.